he got hit in the nose, and when you get hit in the nose, it looked like it was broken because it was all sideways. Looked like your face, like your nose, Frank. So
Put a mask on, Frank.
put a mask on. Huh?
Hey everybody, welcome back to Krush House. I'm Frank Nicotero, joined by the lovely and always awesome Mr. Sean Salisbury. Today on the show, we have Wayne Allen Root joining us, Angelica Bridges to explain some baseball terminology. But as we always do through the NBA playoffs, we have the baddest bad boy of them all, Mr. Rick Mahorn. Rick, we know you are a Pistons diehard. How excited were you to see the Pistons get that #1 pick this week?
I'm still partying, but why can't I be lovely just like Sean?
You are lovely too, man.
Lovely Sean. I see how it is. Such
But you're
vibes.
a bad boy. You're supposed to
And
be.
I understand that Sean is your man, but I just can't get it. But let me just tell you something about having the #1 pick. It gives excitement and electricity to Detroit. One thing that, when I spoke to Troy Weaver and I spoke to Coach Casey, they're excited because this is another piece of the puzzle to restore what the Pistons have been missing. Sometimes when you get that #1 pick, you go, okay, well, who's the #1? Cade Cunningham is that guy that everybody's looking at. So I don't know what's in Troy Weaver's mind, but you know what? Hey, you got the #1 pick, so let's just party. At least we having something to have fun about.
Yeah,
Hey,
what
Rick,
do you hear Ben Wallace is having, huh? Yeah, I mean, Hall of Fame, and he's the good luck charm to bring in the #1, right, Sean?
Yeah, no question about it. And interesting about that first pick, Rick, why, I think I know because of the way we play a perimeter game, but are bigs still as important, versatile bigs to you?
For sure, especially here in Detroit. Mason Plumlee did such a great job. And look, he's a big guy, not known for his offense, but yet his ability to handle the basketball. If you go on watching these throughout these playoffs, you look at a guy like Rudy Gobert, kind of a different matchup when you playing them 7 times. It's good all through the regular season, but when it comes to playing a team 7 times, we've seen this as an example where you see Ayton with the Phoenix Suns, and you see a guy like Joel Embiid. It's kind of 2 different dynamics, but it's also a different set for each team because each team relies on their bigs or they rely on their wings.
Well, you just mentioned the Phoenix Suns, so let's get right into it. I mean, last night's game was all Clippers, right? I mean, no Kawhi Leonard, no problem. We had plenty of shots of Steve Ballmer dancing. I don't know why they always have to shoot him in the crowd after a big hoop, but the Clippers looked good at home and they rolled. I mean, Booker and Chris Paul, what did they have? They had 15 points each. They shot a combined 10 for 41. What did you think of the Clippers' performance last night, guys?
Well, they came out, but and Sean, I know you know this from your football days. They came out and just like hit you in the face. It was going to be 48 minutes of just physical play, and it just seemed like the Suns did not respond to that physicality. You had Patrick Beverly right up close and personal on Booker. Now Booker is one of those scorers. The first game we know he scored a triple-double, 40-point triple-double, something that you go like, wow, what happened? He put on the backpack. But that's the fun about it because you played that. That was the first game. Then they got away. They won a game on, as they call it, the Valley Oop.
The Valley Oop.
And like, wow, that was, you couldn't even think about that play. But each game has its own storyline. And when you look at it last night, in that second half, Terrence Mann, all of a sudden it was like he was rejuvenated. He came out with the energy, and there was no response from the Suns. And I'm sitting there going, maybe Frank, did your son cook a good meal or something? What's the deal, man? Did he come up? Come on, Sean, tell us.
The bacon must have been raw for breakfast, Rick. I don't know what happened, but I can tell you this. And you make such a great point, Rick. I want to go back on your expertise in response to that. You always mention the other guy. Mm-hmm. You do. And when your 2 best players aren't shooting, you're in trouble. We know that. No matter who you are, let alone the Suns. And when the Clippers are great when they're down 2-0, matter of fact, just spot them 2-0, save us the 2 games because they've been able to overcome that in the previous 2 series. But I'll say this, Rick. Reggie Jackson lit it up. You mentioned Mann. You mentioned Pat Beverly, who drives me nuts because he just, every time I turn around, that dude's in your kitchen, right? So with all the stars and Paul George getting his and shooting well from the free throw line, even though he didn't shoot well from the field, I do believe that this is going to be a series, as we know, and the Clippers hung in there, and this is what they do. But it was the other guy, Rick, to validate what you always say, that whooped ass and played with such energy last night.
And the funny thing that even though, we look at Zubac, you look at adjustments. I look at adjustments every game, and you look at the adjustment that Ty Lue made. He started Zubac at the center, and now all of a sudden, Aiden is kind of neutralized. Zubac had 16 rebounds last night, but it was getting second chance opportunities. Those are the hustle points that nobody even recognized. And when you looked at it, the line was Clippers one. You had Clippers 1.5 or something like that. So yeah. Phoenix would have got the 1.5, but then next thing you know, you see guys that come with their backs against the wall, knowing that you don't want to go down 0-3 to a team that's feeling good, but also Chris Paul coming back was so important for the Phoenix Suns, but it kind of threw off the rhythm a little bit. But then you have to look at the full court press that the Clippers came out with. It was like they made them work. It wasn't no more that running and let's have some hoopla. Each game, each series becomes harder and harder because you get the better team.
Frank, they're not ready to go home yet, buddy. The Clippers are not ready to go home.
I don't think so. That they are now. Now, a lot was made about the struggle for Devin Booker and Chris Paul last night. Now, interesting thing I heard about was, now Rick, I know you dished out the pain a lot when you played, and a lot of guys had to wear masks after getting an injured nose. They're saying Booker might have had a little problem wearing that mask for the first time ever. Did you ever wear a mask, or do you know guys that wore it maybe had problems adjusting to it or vision? I don't know. They're saying that could have attributed to his problems.
It could, those are excuses. You're on the court. Come on, Sean. Come on, Frank. If you get in the game, if you playing, you ain't hurt. So if you got a mask on, yeah, anything in your life you have to adjust to if it's foreign to your body. But let's say this. He got hit in the nose, and when you get hit in the nose, it looked like it was broken because it was all sideways. Looked like your face, like your nose, Frank. So
put a mask on, Frank.
Put a mask on. Give you a mask. Take a mask. But what's interesting is that you get out there on the court. Yeah, you make the adjustments, but then that doesn't negate that somebody's playing hound dog on you, making sure that you can't bring the ball up or you get a chance to breathe. Look, if you all up in somebody's mug and their grill, you're going to be like, oh, man, either your breath stank or you just get your ass off.
Masks suck. And throw that in. But with that real quick, Frank,
take a breath, man.
If you're hopefully, he may have to wear it the rest of the series, but think about how it impedes what you do, just the breathing and everything. The first time you wear it, what he should do, just call Rip Hamilton, right, Ricky? Just call up Rip. He may never take the damn thing off again because Rip wore it once and said, hell, I'm leaving it on for 42 years. So I think, he has to adjust, man, because that's a tough place and it can affect your vision, that's for sure.
Now, Sean, we know you're rooting for the Suns. I want to know where you were, who you were watching with, when the Valley-oop happened. What did you think of that play? I mean, what are the odds of them being able to pull that off? Where were you?
Sitting in with my girl and my son.
Okay.
In the living room, staying at home, because I'm one of those guys when too much chaos is going on in certain games, I want to watch it.
Yep.
Well,
I said this, guys. I believe in, they got the timeout without having a timeout, Rick, which is a great, otherwise we would have never seen it. You can't just draw that on your hand and execute it. But we will never. And never is a hard thing, but I don't know when in a clutch situation. The design of Monty Williams' design, fantastic. But then it takes a great great throw by Crowder, a great alley-oop. To know the rule that you can catch it in the cylinder coming out of it, from the baseline when it's not in play for goaltending. And then for the great pick by Booker on a guy twice his size. And then when you're going down, to be able to catch and finish without offensive foul or jumping over somebody to reach and finish. Perfect execution. I went crazy. I'm like, oh my goodness. I was thinking, how did Paul George miss these two? But I was thinking, thank you, Paul. It was execution. You may not see a better design play, Rick, anywhere on the planet in any NBA game.
What's funny is that's the Hail Mary shot, and you've seen all your career. It's like, okay, Doug Flutie, just go back there and throw the Hail Mary. Or if it's the bottom of the ninth and you need a hit or you need a home run, then you see a Kirk Gibson pumping his arms and going, yeah.
Send Willie Randolph to the plate. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We send Willie Randolph to the plate.
Yeah, we send him there for, especially if he's wearing the pinstripes and them blues, you know what I'm saying? Oh, Pirates suck. Anyway, but when you see that Valley Oop, that's what's so fun about basketball. All the cards have to just be in line because, if they did that shot 10 times, you practice that in practice. It's like, okay, we know this play. It just, it gets to be the nerves, everything going, but everything worked. Everything was perfect. And that's what made them win that game because if Paul George did not miss those 2 free throws, we wouldn't be talking about this now. We'll be looking at saying, okay, the Clippers up 2-1 right now. So when I look at this and I look at these games, it's all about a miracle shot, a miracle, something happening. Even when I played, it was Larry Bird stealing the ball. We had the game, and he stole the ball. And that's why I can't stand that little ass leprechaun. I'd have kicked him if he was walking around my house right now. I'd kick him.
Don't forget to head over to VegasWinners.com. The entire month is free at VegasWinners.com. Every pick from every handicapper, free. VegasWinners.com. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing.
All right, listen, I want to shift gears for 1 second, guys, from the NBA to Major League Baseball, my favorite sport. Now, I'm wearing the Pirates jersey. I got Three River Stadium up there. And Rick Mahorn's wearing a Yankee jersey.
And I'm taking my hat off because our next guest, he deserves me taking my hat off for this segment.
That's right. Now listen, this guy was drafted by the Pirates. He was drafted by the Pirates and then traded to the Yankees, and all he did was win 2 rings. We're really excited to have Willie Randolph here, ladies and gentlemen. Willie Randolph. Major League, played, 18, 19 years in the Bigs, coached, managed. Willie, we're thrilled to have you on Krush House, man. I know we've been talking a lot of hoops, but we want to talk some baseball. But do you watch basketball? Are you a hoops fan?
I'm a huge basketball fan. I love all sports. And I want to know, Sean, Rick and Frank, but for you, Rick, are you a Yankee fan or what?
Man, come on, man. Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Dude, listen. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. It's split loyalty between New York and Boston. I'm a football on this side. On the football side, that's where I'm at. Yeah. But on the baseball side, that's where I'm at. I was a Knicks fan until I got in the NBA.
I wonder why you want the Patriots and the Yankees, because they got 8 million championships.
You damn right. That's what we do. But Willie, let me ask you this. Did you have any aspirations? You played other sports, of course, right?
Yeah.
And baseball is, like when I was in school, it was like, okay, I could play football and I could play basketball. And it's like you got to choose one professionally. Why was baseball so prevalent for you, and who influenced you to go that way?
Well, I loved all sports, and actually I was a pretty good basketball player and baseball player. I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York, so we played all kinds of sports. My brother actually played for the Green Bay Packers, Terry Randolph, just for a little while. He went to AIC, American International College in Springfield, Mass., and he made it to the pros. So when I was with the Yankees in '77, he was also went from the Green Bay Packers to the Jets. So we won the same situation in New York. But I played all sports, guys. I really loved all sports, but baseball was the one I loved the most because I wasn't a big guy. I was fast, so I knew if I played football, they knocked the crap out of me. So I stuck with the baseball, the game that I loved. But I'm not a bad hoopster, but I loved all sports, and I'm a pretty good athlete. But baseball was the one that I'm glad that I stuck to.
Now, do you watch baseball a lot now that you're away from the game? Yeah? Who do you like to watch?
I'm a huge Met Yankee fan. I love all sports. I do a lot of stuff on the side locally with talk radio, so I stay abreast of everything goes on. But no, I'm a huge sports fan. Baseball's my first love, so I keep my finger on the pulse of every sport.
Hey, Willie, I was thinking about Mickey Rivers because I had that on my mind with Bucky Dent's and Dan Patrick and I interviewed him. Hey, yeah, that's right. Hey, when Dan and I interviewed him, it was classic talking about Bucky and that home run over the Red Sox into the screen in Fenway. I want to talk 77, Willie, just a little bit of history. And I always wanted Billy Martin and you and Thurman, Munson, the group I don't have to tell you about. The list of players on that roster. But I want to know more about what it was like on a daily routine in the clubhouse with that group, on the road and at home.
It was interesting to say the least. It was the Bronx Zoo. It was the Bronx Zoo. I mean, literally, it was like the Bronx Zoo. I'm a young kid, 21 years old, in this clubhouse with all these great players: Thurman, Munson, I mean, Roy White, Catfish Hunter. I mean, I can go down. Chris Chambliss, Greg Nettles. So I'm sitting there trying to acclimate myself into the game, and I'm watching all this stuff go around with Billy doesn't like Reggie doesn't like Billy. I mean, George is fighting with Billy and Reggie. It was just total chaos. I'm sitting there going, I just want to keep my head down and play baseball. It was interesting. I learned a lot from these guys, but it was total chaos. Back page, front page. As long as we were in the mix, Mr. Steinbrenner was happy.
Hey, Willie, you mentioned one of my favorite players, and that's Reggie Jackson, and I got a chance to meet him and just have a great time with him. I mean, you talk about dynamics, especially winning championships and World Series and all that. You know what? You got to have those personalities in order to affect your team, because you'll go like Billy Martin's getting on my damn nerves, and then you're cussing each other out. But the result is to win that World Series. How proud were you when you finally you achieved that goal?
Oh, it was unbelievable for me, Rick, because again, I grew up in New York, and what better thrill is to be able to play in front of your family and friends where you went to school, where your aunts and uncles live, just to be able to be on center stage like that with one of the most storied franchises in all baseball, to be able to play in that environment was just like a dream come true. I dreamt about it as a kid, and then it came to fruition for me. But again, it was a situation where, if you remember back in the mid-70s, we had some lean years there for a while. 75 was a tough year, and then we got to 76 where we picked up Catfish and a lot of these free agents. We had the nucleus of Thurman Munson and, like I said, Roy White. So we just needed a Mickey Rivers sprinkled in there, a Willie Randolph, Oscar Gamble, and we started to take off. So the ingredients was there for us to be a championship team. We just needed to sprinkle in a few pieces. And then in 77, when Mr. Reggie Jackson came in, the straw that stirs the drink. Right?
I was just going to say that.
By the way, with that, the greatest head of hair ever trying to put a batting helmet on was Oscar Gamble.
Oscar Gamble.
Oh, it was phenomenal. Artis Gilmore in an argument with Oscar Gamble would have been awesome, right?
Oscar Gamble's hair. Gamble's. It didn't even fit on the baseball card. It was like
I remember when he would try to put his batting helmet on. He'd be pushing that thing down. It was like what do they call that when you pour water in your hair and it just grows that chia pet hair? I mean, it was like just grew at the second. Willie, in that 77, you mentioned bringing the straw that stirs the drink. Reginald Martinez Jackson. Let me take you to the 3 consecutive pitches in the World Series, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that atmosphere? I can remember vividly because I'm a bigger baseball fan than anything that I've ever done, and I remember watching every pitch of the entire thing.
Yes.
And I've met Reggie and spent time with him like Rick since then. It's phenomenal. And listen to the stories, how far Reggie hits it, how good Reggie was. If you want to know, Reggie will tell you. And I mean that affection. I love it. I love him. But what was that atmosphere like in that moment when he hit the consecutive of Bert Hooton? I can't even remember the 3.
Charlie Huff.
There you go.
The third one.
3 straight pitches for 3 straight home runs.
It was phenomenal. Just on center stage, Reggie said they're going to name a candy bar for me if I come to New York. But when you think about it, old Yankee Stadium, I mean, people don't really realize how loud old Yankee Stadium was. The place was literally shaking, okay? And it's funny how Reggie waited for that moment, and I just had a feeling everyone knew that he was going to step up. And just to watch him just put us on his back literally and just carry us through the World Series was something that was phenomenal to experience. Again, I'm a 21-year-old kid at this time. I'm barely 22 years old, and I'm watching a guy that I emulated, that I grew up rooting for. And to this day, I spoke to Reggie a couple of days ago. We're still great friends to this day, but he was the guy that said, I'm going to come here and win a championship. And I just could not believe I'm sitting there experiencing the fact that we bring a world championship back to the city of New York after all those lean years, and Reggie Jackson put us on his back and took us there. But it was just like being in some type of dream, Sean. You couldn't believe that in 3 swings, basically. And going back to L.A., he had a home run on the last game in L.A., so really it was almost like 4 consecutive home runs. But people forget about that whole series, even leading up to that in the playoffs, that Chris Chambliss had some big home runs in that series also.
Yes,
but Reggie was the man, and with all the infighting that went on between he and George, this was like the perfect moment for Reggie Jackson. It was made for him, and he did not disappoint, obviously.
You talk about arenas, but then you also, you talk about, I look at, how was it when you went to the Mets. I mean, it's like not the Mets, you know. I don't even. You gotta have. Come on, well, you gotta have some.
What people don't realize is that I grew up a Met fan. Again, I grew up in
Oh,
Brownsville.
this it. The conversation's over. He grew up a Mets.
Move on.
But I couldn't turn down the gig. I mean, geez, I waited a long time for the opportunity to manage. So when they came to me, I wasn't going to be. Beggars can't be choosy, right?
That's true. And saying that, what type of adjustment, you know, because being a former player and knowing that you had the ingredients to win a championship and that appetite, oh my gosh, that appetite for the game, you know, you're 21 and you win a World Series and it's like, can we do this again? How could you influence the guys being in that managerial part of baseball?
Well, the managerial part, I was prepared for that. I waited a long time, as you know. And going back to the Mets, I actually played for the Mets my last year in the league. My last year in the big league was 92, and that was my last year with the Mets. So, again, going back to that dream come true situation where you got a kid growing up in the sandlots of New York, and I get a chance to actually play for the team that I rooted for. So after I left the Mets that year, I went into the front office for a minute, then I got into the coaching situation. But when I think about my career, Rick, you know, all the years that I was a coach, you know, in the 90s when we had the core four with Jeter and all those cats, I was preparing myself for all of this. Even before I got to that point, guys, I was already rubbing elbows with, you know, guys like Yogi Berra, Lou Piniella, Dick Hauser, late Dick Hauser, you know, Billy Martin, all those years. I learned from all these cats, you know. So when it was time for me to actually get a chance to manage, I was ready for it. And I was able to take all that knowledge, things I learned from some of the greats in the game, and apply that to my players. And the disappointing part about the Mets, even though you're not a Met fan, you one pitch for going to the freaking World Series, man.
Right.
I mean, you gotta be kidding me. How great would it have been? Who knows? If we would have got to the World Series and won, I might still be managing. Who knows? Or whatever. Because, you know, when you get that little taste, you know, they kind of get a little house money to play with or whatever. But disappointing for me, I've never got a chance to do it again. But for me, I've lived an unbelievable life, being able to be a captain of the Yankees, be inducted in Monument Park, and prior to that, being the manager of the Mets, a team that I grew up rooting for. So I'm blessed.
Wow. Hey, Willie, I want to talk a little bit about the current state of baseball right now. You said you talked to Reggie the other day. When you guys talk on the phone about baseball, I'm wondering if you talk about today's game. And is anybody talking about the spider tack and the baseball and all these pitchers complaining about not getting the grip on the ball anymore and basically using a foreign substance? What is your take on that?
It drives us nuts. It really does. I talk to a lot of my former teammates, and we all say the same thing. And we hate to even come across like this because, you know, you don't want to, like, get off my lawn kind of guys or back in the day. It was not all about that. It's just that the game sometimes is hard to watch because, you know, they're not teaching fundamentals. This launch angle stuff is just taken off to the point where, you know, guys, you know, it's difficult to hit a baseball. But if these guys are throwing above 95 miles an hour, you can't get underneath the baseball and be consistent like that. Walks, strikeouts, home runs. Walks, strikeouts, home runs. It drives us insane. And this is what we talk about, Frank. I mean, we try to, you know, the analytics are here. I understand analytics. There's nothing wrong with that. But they've gone overboard with it. Now they're getting to a situation where everyone has the same business model, basically. All the statistics are there. So now, how can we get another angle here? How can we make it a little different? Let's try to, you know, cross the line a little bit with this tacky stuff that they put on the ball. I'm watching baseball games, guys, and I've seen trillions of games. I'm saying, what the hell? How could that ball fall off the table like that? There's no way in the world a curveball can dip like that. A ball can sink like that. There's something going on, okay? And I'm thinking, well, when's Major League Baseball going to wake up and go, let's not have another steroid situation here. Let's get ahead of this now before it just blows up. They didn't jump on it right away, and that's why we have this problem. Right?
Okay, we've been talking a lot about baseball and betting on baseball. Now, to break it down for you people who are newbies to this, here's the lovely Baywatch Beauty Angelica Bridges to explain some of the baseball betting terminology.
Hey everybody, let's look at some basic baseball betting terms. Some of the terms will cross over to different sports, but may have a baseball twist. Let's start with money lines. Money lines is a straightforward bet on which team will win. Each game will have a favored and underdog team. The favored team will have a negative number next to their name, and the underdog will have a positive number next to theirs, like so. Minus odds tell you how much you will have to wager to win $100. Plus odds tell you how much you stand to profit on a $100 bet. Next up is run lines. Run lines are the MLB equivalent of a point spread. The difference with the MLB run line is that it is always 1.5 runs. This tells you that the Mets are favored, and you have to win by 2 runs in order for you to win your bet. That's if you took the Mets to win. If you bet the Dodgers to win, as long as they don't lose by more than 1 or win outright, you win your bet. Now we get to totals. Totals are also called the over-under. It's when you bet on the combined scores of the 2 teams will over or under a certain number that the handicappers have set. Take this for example. To win an under bet, the combined score must be less than 7 runs. To win an over wager, the combined score has to be 8 or over. Last up is 5-inning lines. As the name implies, this wager has you predicting which team will be in the lead at the end of 5 full innings. And that's it for baseball betting terms. Thank you. Let's go out to the ball game.
Willie, for me, I want to go. I know I love the history, and there's so much. And Rick, I know, and Frank would go forward with baseball. I got to go back, and I don't mean to put a buzzkill on this, but we got to. This is something I've always wanted. I've never asked a Yankee player about this, but I've read a million times about it. The day Thurman Munson died, one of the great Yankees of all, captain, I think, at one point as well, Willie. We didn't get enough of Thurman Munson. What was that like that day? Do you remember your emotion when you found out?
I remember so vividly. It was we had left Chicago. We had an off day the next day, and Thurman